Hello to all my peeps out there in YouTube land. Glad to see you in the chat room today, and happy to have my lurkers with me, and all the Memorex viewers that'll watch it later. Glad to have you out there today. Beautiful day in Indiana. Sun's kind of peeking in and out behind the clouds today. A little tiny breeze making the leaves twitch once in a while. Doesn't amount to much. Done been out, mowed the yard this morning, and woke all the neighbors up. I wasn't the first one though. I heard somebody else's motor whining down the block. So going to be one of them yard mowing days. I think they're calling for a little rain to come tonight, so everybody will be out mowing that ain't been out and got it done yet. Oh my goodness, not a whole lot other than that going on. Picked a cucumber this morning. I got tomatoes turning red out on the vines. I looked over the garden a little bit. I've got some work to do out there over the weekend. There's beans to pick. There's squashes to check. I'll probably have tomatoes to pick. Lots of things going on out in the garden today. Got a lot of news for you today, too, so we'll just go ahead and dive right on into it. The first one I have is off of BizPack Review. Exclusive IRS launches investigation of the Clinton Foundation. IRS Commissioner John Kosman referred congressional charges of corrupt Clinton Foundation pay-to-play activities has his tax agency's exempt operations office for investigation. The Daily Caller News Foundation has learned. The request to investigate Bill Hillary and Chelsea Clinton Foundation on charges of public corruption was made in a July 15th letter by 64 House Republicans to IRS, FBI, and Federal Trade Commission. They charged the foundation is lawless. The initiative is being led by Representative Marsha Blackburn, a Tennessee Republican who serves as vice chairwoman of the House Committee on Energy and Commerce, which oversees FTC. The FTC regulates public charities alongside the IRS. The lawmakers charged the Clinton Foundation is a lawless pay-to-play enterprise that has been operating under a cloak of philanthropy for years and should be investigated. Coxman's July 22 reply came only a week after the House Republicans contacted the tax agency. It arrived to their offices Monday, the first opening day of the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia. We have forwarded the information you have submitted to our exempt organizations program in Dallas, Kosman told the Republicans. The exempt organization program is the division of the IRS that regulates the operations of public foundations and charities. It's the same division that was led by former IRS official Lois Lerner when hundreds of conservative, evangelical, and Tea Party nonprofit applicants were illegally targeted and harassed by tax officials. Blackburn told the DCNF she believes the IRS has a double standard because they would go after conservative groups and religious groups and organizations, but they wouldn't be looking at the Clinton Foundation for years. It was as if they chose who they are going to audit and question. It's not right. Blackburn said she and her colleagues will continue to push for answers on Clinton Foundation's governing policies, including its insular board of directors. She said they also will examine conflicts of interest and follow the money trail. In my opinion, there's a lack of good governance. There is the appearance of conditions of interest, and there are continued questions about the financial dealings, she told the DCNF. House Republicans singled out House Republicans singled out Laureate Education and Uranium One as two companies that seem to have paid lavish sums to the Clintons and later received official government benefits. Laureate hired former President Bill Clinton as honorary chancellor, paying him $16.5 million over 5 years. The Baltimore-based company, which operates for-profit universities in 28 countries, also donated between $1 million and $5 million to the Clinton Foundation, according to the foundation's website. While Bill was collecting a paycheck from the company and his wife was Secretary of State, the International Finance Corporation, IFC, an arm of the World Bank, invested $150 million in Laureate. It was the largest ever single IFC investment to an educational company. The United States government is the largest contributor to the IFC. During that same period, the Department of State's U.S. Agency for International Development awarded $55 million to the International Youth Foundation. Laureate CEO Douglas Becker is on the foundation board of directors. International Youth Foundation, the Clinton Foundation, and the Laureate jointly participated in foundation programs. A Laureate spokesman denied the quid pro quo charges, quoting allegation of any quid pro quo between Laureate, the International Youth Foundation, and the Clintons are completely false, unquote, she told the DCNF, adding, the FCC's decision to invest in Laureate had no connection to and was not influenced in any way whatsoever by Hillary Clinton. The IFC also awarded $150 million to another company owned by Frank Gisteria, a close friend of Bill Clinton. Gisteria donated $100 million to create the Clinton-Gisteria Enterprise Partnership within the Clinton Foundation. The funds went to Pacific Infrastructure, a company in which Gisteria had a significant financial stake. The company was to build a port and oil pipeline in Colombia that was strenuously opposed by environmental and human rights groups because the pipeline sliced through 5 indigenous villages and forcibly displaced the tribes. Gisteria also was an owner of Uranium One, or owner in Uranium One, a uranium mining company with operations in Kazakhstan and in the western United States. Gisteria wanted to sell a share of the uranium business to Russia's Atomic Energy Agency, which required the U.S. approval, including that of Secretary Clinton. The Russian investment was approved. Blackburn added that it appeared the Clinton Foundation, which was tax exempt only to construct and manage Clinton's presidential library, never got IRS approval to become a tax exempt global organization with operations in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the Pacific and the Caribbean. In the Clinton Foundation, we have a charity that has never filed appropriate paperwork, Blackburn charged. Charles Ortel, a Wall Street analyst who has been investigating the Clinton Foundation, told the DCNF that the expansion of the foundation into a global giant was not legally approved by the IRS. It's crystal clear in an interview of their application that their purposes were narrowly limited, as they should have been, to a presidential archive in Little Rock, Arkansas, he said to the DCNF. End of discussion. Blackburn also questions the makeup of the Clinton Foundation Board of Directors, which IRS rules require include independent, arm's-length board members. The Clinton Foundation Board mainly consists of close friends, business colleagues, and big donors to the Clintons, as reported by the DCNF. All charities need to guard against incestuous relationships which limit their ability to be objective, the Congresswoman said. The Clinton Foundation, or in the Clinton Foundation, we see a lack of diversity within their board. Uranium One did not respond to the DCNF's request for comment. The Clinton Foundation also did not respond to the DCNF's request for comment. So there you have that one. I wonder if that'll go anywhere before the election. And the next one that we have here is off of CNN Politics. Democrats accuse Trump of disloyalty over Clinton emails. And by the way, all these URLs are listed in the description of the video if you'd like to check them out for yourself or see, what pictures and stuff is associated with them. In Doral, Florida, on CNN, Donald Trump appeared to call on Russian intelligence agencies Wednesday to find 30,000 of Hillary Clinton's deleted emails, adding a stunning twist to the uproar over Moscow's alleged intervention in the presidential election. They probably have her 33,000 emails. I hope they do. They probably have her 33,000 emails that she lost and deleted, because you'd see some Beauty's there, so let's see, Trump said at a news conference in Florida. He was referring to emails the personal server that Clinton used to conduct official business as Secretary of State, but that she deemed private and did not hand over to the State Department. The GOP nominee's comments sparked an immediate furor at the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia, as well as claims by Clinton campaign that Trump was endangering national security and even conspiring with a U.S. foe. Former Defense Secretary and CIA Director Leon Panetta denounced Trump's irresponsible comments from the convention floor, saying that the presidential candidate asked the Russians to interfere in American politics. Cold War style drama. The new developments over emails and alleged Russian espionage thickened the plot of the Cold War drama that has been gathering around the Democratic Convention in Philadelphia all week after leaked messages between top party officials appeared on WikiLeaks and seemed to show that they had tilted the primary campaign against Clinton's opponent, Bernie Sanders. The U.S. officials have said there's little doubt that Moscow is behind the hack of emails from DNC servers. In his comments, the billionaire businessman implied that he would be open to Moscow staging a new hack against the United States to find the emails, or that he wanted to use intelligence produced from earlier spying to benefit his political campaign. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you'll probably be rewarded mightily by our press, Trump said during a news conference in Florida. They probably have them. I'd like to have them released, he continued. Now, if Russia or China or any other country has those emails, I mean, to be honest with you, I'd love to see them. Trump's comments marked an extraordinary moment in presidential campaign that has already overturned political convention. Clinton's campaign reacted swiftly, seeking to use Trump's comments to play into their large narrative that the Republican nominee lacks the knowledge and temperament to be commander-in-chief. This has to be the first time that a major presidential candidate has actively encouraged a foreign power to conduct espionage against his political opponent, says Hillary for America senior policy advisor Jake Sullivan. That's not hyperbole, that's just the facts. This has gone from being a matter of curiosity and a matter of politics to being a national security issue. Speaking to CNN ahead of his Democratic convention speech on Wednesday, Panetta suggested the remarks raised questions about Trump's loyalty to the United States. No presidential candidate who's running to be president of the United States ought to be asking a foreign country, particularly Russia, to engage in hacking or intelligence efforts to try to determine what the Democratic candidate may or may not be doing, Panetta, a Clinton ally, said in an interview with Christine Amanpour. This just is beyond my own understanding of the responsibilities that candidates have to be loyal to their country and to their country alone, not to reach out to somebody like Putin in Russia and try to engage them in an effort to try to, in effect, conduct a conspiracy against the other party, he said. Panetta changed his convention speech in the afternoon to insert a direct attack on Trump for his rhetoric suggesting that Russia meddled in the election, according to a source familiar with the subject. In his speech, he blasted Trump for taking Russia's side. He asked the Russians to interfere in American politics, Panetta charged, called Trump as a commander-in-chief inconceivable. Think about that for a moment. Donald Trump wants to be president of the United States, and Donald Trump is asking one of our adversaries to engage in hacking our intelligence efforts against the United States to affect our election. Soon after Panetta spoke, the Trump campaign released a statement criticizing former Defense Secretary's stance. It is alarming that Leon Panetta would, through his silence, excuse Hillary Clinton's enablement of foreign espionage with her illegal email scheme and her corrupt decision to then destroy those emails and disassemble her private server to hide her crimes from the public and authorities, Trump senior policy advisor Stephen Miller said. He also argued that it was Clinton who was endangering national security with her policies in the Middle East and North Africa. The FBI recommended not to bring criminal charges against Clinton earlier this month. Cleaving up the controversy. Earlier Wednesday, Trump's campaign pushed back against claims that he was inviting Russia to hack Clinton's emails. Trump Rapid Response Director Stephen Chung said the candidate had absolutely not done any such thing. What he intended was hand them over, yes, but inviting goes too far, he said. I think that's a completely ridiculous thing to say, that he's inviting a country to hack a presidential candidate's emails. On Twitter, Trump himself wrote, if Russia or any other country or person has Hillary Clinton's 33,000 illegally deleted emails, perhaps they should share them with the FBI. Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, a Trump supporter, also tried to clean up the controversy. Since Hillary promised us she only deleted 33,000 personal emails, how can it be a national security issue if someone releases them? He asked on Twitter. He added, the media seems more upset by Trump's joke about Russian hacking than by the fact that Hillary's personal server was vulnerable to Russia. Tantamount to treason? CNN legal analyst Steve Valadek said there was no real argument that Mr. Trump's comments were tantamount to treason, despite an outpouring on social media calling his comments disloyal. Federal law limits that offense to an individual who levies war against the United States or adheres to its enemies, Valadek said. However complicated the United States' relationship with Russia may be at the moment, there's nothing to the argument that the two countries are at war or that Russia is an enemy within the meaning of the proviso. But he added that Trump could have transgressed a different federal law that makes a crime for an individual to induce others to commit felonies involving physical force against American property, which almost certainly includes cyber hacking. Trump's explosive comment on emails Wednesday during a news conference apparently called to try to commandeer media coverage focused the Democratic convention were not confined to the two email sagas. He denied reports in some media outlets that his business was under undue influence from Russia and that Putin hoped he would win the election. He also claimed that Putin had once used the N-word to show disrespect against Obama. I was shocked, number one, he doesn't like him. Number two, he doesn't respect him, Trump said. There are no published reports to back up Trump's allegation about Putin's use of the racially derogatory term, however. He called Russia's potential involvement in the hack another sign of Russia's disrespect for our country. Trump argued that the U.S.-Russia relations would be better under his presidency than if Clinton took charge of the Oval Office, saying that he would treat Putin firmly but would seek to bolster ties between the U.S. and Russia. But he said that did not mean he was in the Kremlin's pocket. I never met Putin. I don't know who Putin is, he said. I don't know who Putin is. He said one nice thing about me, Trump said. The GOP nominee also sowed some uncertainty about another aspect of the U.S. policy towards Russia concerning its annexing of part of the Ukrainian territory of Crimea. He was asked whether as president he would recognize Crimea as Russian territory and whether he would contemplate lifting sanctions imposed to punish Moscow's move into the enclave by the U.S. and its allies. We'll be looking at that. Yeah, we'll be looking, Trump said. So there you have that article. I can't make this stuff up. The next one we have is off of Politico. This is Sanders backers revolt against Kaine. You know, Kaine is Hillary's pick for the vice presidential seat. So let's see what this says. Philadelphia, Tim Kaine has a Bernie Sanders problem. The beloved but defeated presidential candidate has given only a lukewarm endorsement to Hillary Clinton's running mate, Kaine. Kaine didn't even get a mention in Sanders' Monday night address to the Democratic National Convention, and the Vermont senator's fervent supporters are getting the message. From delegation hotels to the carnivorous downtown convention center, Sanders backers are expressing outrage over someone who, in a matter of just 5 days, has gone from being largely unknown outside the Washington, D.C. area to potentially next in line for running the country. Several Bernie backers say they're so upset with Clinton's pick that they're prepared to cause a scene Wednesday night inside the Wells Fargo Center when Kaine gives his primetime address accepting the vice presidential nomination. Others warn of more lasting damage to the Clinton-led ticket in the form of weak turnout in the November battleground states, even with Donald Trump on the other side of the ballot. It's a form of Hillary Clinton saying to the Bernie Sanders constituency, "Screw you, because we think we have enough of you," said Norman Solomon, the Martin County, California-based leader of the informal group of Sanders delegates known as the Bernie Delegates Network. Kaine Wednesday morning travels around Philadelphia, included a visit to the breakfast hosted by his home state Virginia delegation, where he donned his attack dog hat in slamming Trump's record on taxes and veterans. He also visited swing state party faithful from Florida and Iowa, where his remarks were more of an introduction. While there were no jeers or boos of Clinton's top surrogate, the delegates streaming out of the room, said the lack of catcalls doesn't mask the deeper challenge Kaine faces in winning over the Sanders faithful. The selection of that particular vice president was a mistake, said Marcos Rubenstein, a Sanders delegate from Dubuque, Iowa, who serves on the DNC's platform committee. He's not exactly the person that could represent the hopes and aspirations of the base of the Democratic Party in Iowa, and of the grassroots that is loosely organized and could have been voting en masse. I'm not asking to have Bernie as a VP. I'm surprised that having other options, they chose him, he added. Sanders delegates interviewed this week listed among their preferred VP choices former Ohio State Senator Nina Turner, former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley, and Elizabeth Warren, the Massachusetts senator, who in an interview published Wednesday by ABC dodged the question of whether Kaine was the right pick for the ticket. Several also admitted they're only now becoming schooled on the Virginian's long record, which has taken him from Richmond City Hall to the governor's mansion and now a single term in the Senate. They say they aren't buying what they read in the news reports from the mainstream media, which suggested Kaine is actually a liberal by Virginia standards. They see Kaine's self-described boring label as something less than an asset in the general election. The overall picture was underwhelming, said Jill Yorty, a Sanders delegate from Fairbanks, who helped lead his Alaska campaign with as much excitement and enthusiasm and passion that's been brought to the Democratic process through the primary, and I think a lot of that is from Bernie Sanders. I'd have expected a more dynamic choice to be picked if they really wanted to keep voters engaged. These Sanders supporters are uneasy with Kaine's past support for everything from offshore drilling to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or his complicated stance as personality pro-life Catholic who has governed from a pro-choice position. I hear the counter-arguments that such and such pro-abortion committee or whoever says that Tim Kaine is good and he's checked off all the marks of his voting record, but yet you look at it and he has, but he's compromised, said Katrina Bergstrom, a Los Angeles-based attorney and Sanders delegate serving on California Rules Committee. When it comes down to it and you look at the actual facts, he's not enough of a progressive candidate for us. Kaine's lack of popularity with the Sanders crowd is also evident in a recent survey released by the Bernie Delegates Network, showing nearly 90% of its 285 respondents listed his selection as VP nominee as not acceptable. The survey, which cites Kaine's position on coal, labor, and trade issues, found just 8 people answered that Kaine would be an acceptable pick. Kaine in recent days has tried to give liberals reason to back him, bashed by the left on the eve of his selection for opposing financial regulations. Kaine now says he wants Wall Street to pay its fair share of taxes. He came out against the TPP deal even though throughout the year he has generally praised the agreement. And on Tuesday, Bloomberg reported the senator had personally told Clinton he would support repealing the Hyde Amendment that bans use of federal money for abortion services. But those kinds of rapid shifts aren't the kinds of things that you can break through with Sanders' contingent that wants much deeper changes inside the Democratic Party and sees the addition of a centrist to the ticket as yet another gut punch. Denise Groves, a Sanders delegate from York Beach, Maine, said the addition of Kaine to the ticket undercut some of the policy victories that the Vermont senator's supporters were able to notch during the writing of this party platform. Platform schmatform, it's not binding, she said. This was a bone that they tossed us and then turned around and spit in our face with Tim Kaine as our vice president, a corporatist, anti-gay, anti-abortion, doesn't want to break up the banks, supports the TPP. I've got problems with all those things. Many have a list of grievances with the Democratic Party and the Clinton campaign that just keeps on growing. They're frustrated that the Democratic officials earlier this week stalled them from filing the necessary paperwork to push an alternative vice presidential candidate. They're upset about the hacked DNC emails that led to Chairwoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz's ouster. And then comes Kaine, who was spotted just before Bill Clinton's speech Tuesday, making the rounds of 2 arena suites reserved for the very small handful of Clinton's biggest fundraisers. It doesn't surprise me. It makes me kind of sad, Yorty said after hearing about Kaine's visit with the Democratic donors. Sanders supporters have been registering their complaints throughout the DNC with boos on the arena floor and even staging a walkout following Tuesday's roll call vote when Clinton secured the nomination. Now comes another opportunity Wednesday night with Kaine. I'm sure there will be something, Bergstrom said, that will at least give the world a sense of where we stand on how we feel with Tim Kaine's nomination. So there was that article. And then we have, off of the Telegraph News, Donald Trump calls on Vladimir Putin's Russia to find Hillary Clinton's missing emails. Now, we covered that in one article. This pretty much is the same thing. I don't see any new. Well, there might be a little bit in this. Let's see. We got. I'll jump down on in this. What the motives were in terms of leaks. Oh, geez, it's got something playing.
They're all beef, just like yours. They're also kosher.
See if we can get that stopped.
Oh, honey.
Oh, gee. Well, okay. Let's see here. We will put that down. No, that didn't work. We'll pull that up. And we'll stop that. Stop that. There we go. Finally got that. Gee whiz. And I'll be dogged if it ain't going to play another one. Well, I'll tell you what. If you want to take a look at that, it's down there in the description. I can't play that stuff because copyrights and stuff. So if you want to take a look at that, you got it down there in the description. It's got a little bit in there about ISIS and stuff in it. So that's why I had that one. And the next one that we've got is off of Forbes. Stocks, let's see. That's not what I wanted. Let me jump on down in here. Well, this thing jumped all around on me. Huh. Bear with me. These silly things, they jump all over the place. Okay, that's not going to cooperate with me at all now. I don't know what's up with that site. So if you want to take a look at that one, you're welcome to take a look at it and see if it'll work better for you than it's working for me. I don't know. It was working a while ago, and now all of a sudden it's decided that it ain't going to work. It's off Forbes. Alrighty. Well, we'll just move on to the next one and see what we got here. All right. This is off CNN. Suicide bombing kills dozens in Syria. Suicide bombing killed 48 people, among them women and children, Wednesday in northern Syria. The UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said a truck bomb exploded near buildings belonging to the Kurdish Security Agency and other governmental departments in the city of Qamishli near the border with Turkey. CNN's Nick Patton-Walsh reported. The observatory said 140 people were hurt. ISIS claimed responsibility and said one of its members drove a truck rigged with explosives to reach the Kurdish administrative complex where defense, interior, and military recruiting departments operated. Kurdish officials are trying to learn how ISIS was able to get so much explosives into their stronghold. ISIS said the suicide operation was a response to the crimes committed by the coalition warplanes against the vulnerable people of men, women, and children in Mojab City. Human rights groups said last week that U.S.-led airstrikes in and around the ISIS-controlled city of Mojab have killed more than 100 and wounded dozens more since June. Mojab, or Manbij, I'm not sure how that's pronounced, area is the last large tract of land along Syria's northern border with Turkey under ISIS control, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. Video from Qamishli showed residents digging through rubble, searching for survivors, and women wailing from apartments where the blast had blown off front walls. The city is under joint control of the Syrian-based Kurdish rebels, the People's Protection Units, or YPG, and the Syrian regime. The terror group has claimed responsibility for spate of terror attacks recently, including one that killed at least 21 people this week in Baghdad. Earlier this month, the deadliest terror attack in Baghdad in years killed nearly 300 people when a suicide truck bomb plowed into a busy shopping district. On Tuesday, the ISIS-linked news agency said the terror group's soldiers were behind a church attack in northern France that killed a Catholic priest. One of the two suspects in the attack was known to anti-terror authorities after attempting a trip to Syria, a French anti-terrorism prosecutor said on Tuesday. So there you have ISIS news. We'll see what else is cooking here. Okay, we've got BizPac review. Marilyn Mosby drops all remaining charges against cops charged in the death of Freddie Gray. Fulfilling the prediction of a number of legal experts, Baltimore State Attorney Marilyn Mosby proved she was not up to the task of convincing convicting 6 police officers charged in the death of Freddie Gray, having gone 0 for 4 in trials already held, with 3 cops being acquitted and the 4th case being declared a mistrial. Mosby has dropped all remaining charges. The Baltimore Sun reported prosecutors dropped all remaining charges against 3 Baltimore police officers accused in the arrest and death of Freddie Gray in downtown courtroom on Wednesday morning, including one of the most high-profile criminal cases in Baltimore history. The startling move was an apparent acknowledgement of the unlikelihood of a conviction following the acquittals of 3 other officers on similar and more serious charges by Circuit Judge Barry G. Williams, who was expected to preside over the remaining trials as well. Chief Deputy State Attorney Michael Shazwo told Circuit Judge Barry G. Williams that the state was dropping all remaining charges at a hearing Wednesday meant to start the trial of one of the officers yet to be tried. Of those acquittals, Williams had repeatedly said that the prosecutors presented little or no evidence to support their broader theory in the case, that the officers acted unreasonably and willfully disregarded their training and general orders, the Sun reported. Catherine Flynn, an attorney for that officer, promised to speak soon on the details of the decision. All of our clients are thrilled with what happened today, and we will be making a comment later to address the details of what happened, Flynn said. So there was that one, which is the update on Freddie Gray trial. And the next one here is off of WND. U.S. city rolls over for radical mosque. Radical mosque, known for breeding terrorists, has been granted special privileges by the city of Bloomington, Minnesota, which allows its members to take over a public park and treat it as their own, to the exclusion of other residents, according to complaints filed by a citizens group. The Friends of Smith Park started a petition drive and took its case to Bloomington City Council with a formal complaint Monday night. At issue is the Dar al-Farouk Mosque, which WND has previously reported has a record of turning Somali refugees into jihadists for ISIS and other terrorist groups. At least half a dozen known Somali terrorists have attended Dar al-Farouk in recent years, including Adan Farah, age 20, and his brother Muhammad, 22, who pleaded guilty in April, providing material support to ISIS. The mosque is headed by Walid Adris al-Minisi, who preaches hatred of Jews straight from the Quran and the Hadiths. Now it has come to light that city officials in Bloomington have given al-Minsi and his Shahara-compliant followers special privilege that violate its conditional use permit, or CUP, that are not offered to any other religious group, said attorney and retired Lieutenant Colonel Larry Frost. By doing so, Frost said the city has exposed itself to potential lawsuit from the churches and synagogues in the area that have not been afforded the same rights. According to your police officers, you privileged Dal al-Farah worshippers above all other religions. You've made Smith Park a Dar al-Farah only zone after the park is already closed, excluding citizens of all other faiths and those of no faith, said Frost, who represents Friends of Smith Park. The council members sat mum during Frost's comments. And let's see. It's got a long list of abuses here. If I can get the computer to cooperate, it's running a little slow. Here we go. The list of abuses and alleged violations by Dar al-Farouk, which was allowed to build in a residential area, is long. They range from dumping asbestos in the trash to having 3 to 5 times the occupancy allowed by its conditional use permit, making excessive noise, shining car lights, and producing overflow parking at all hours of the night during the month of Ramadan, and to a lesser extent every weekend. The mosque members take over the adjacent public park and force out residents of nearby neighborhoods, often staying in the park well after the posted closing time of 11 p.m. Neighbors have been told by mosque workers to get out of Smith's Park because the park belongs to the Muslims, said one local woman. Another local resident, Matilda Zumba, who lives in a neighborhood near the mosque, approached the city council Monday night with an interpreter. She said she has 2 small children who are always playing outside. I'm very afraid because there's a lot of traffic and a lot of speeding, and the people of Dar al-Farouk don't respect our speed limits and the safety of our children, Zumba told the council. I'm also now afraid to take our children to the park because there are many people there who do not respect the rights of our own children to play there. A lot of times, the other children don't want to work together to share with our children. Sometimes their parents are there and they may shout at them, but they don't do anything. They just continue to let their children interfere. And the page jumped on me, so we shall try this again. Okay. The park is very important to the Spanish community, especially, and we met there a lot. but now we don't because we don't feel safe. Mosque attendees have flooded the neighborhood with off-site parking, blocked driveways, and walked through neighbors' yards without permission. The city has told neighbors if they park in joint use parking, the neighbors have to hurry to the sidewalk and get out of the parking lot so it would be available for the mosque. Last week, one supporter of the neighborhood group witnessed mosque abusers using joint parking areas to practice driving at 1:30 in the morning by using city garbage cans as obstacles. When the witness came to film the event, 3 young mosque members confronted him, one demanding to know what he was doing and telling him he could not film the offending car or its license. Later, a police officer told the witness that only mosque members can use the parking lots after normal parking hours. In other words, the public space is reserved for use by one particular religion after it's closed to the public. The city took more than 3 years and 67 drafts to complete the conditional use permit with the mosque. Built into that contract is a requirement that the city use laborious 5-phase 6-month enforcement process to correct any Dal Ar-Faro violations. Clearly, that's a non-enforcement clause, Frost said. The city has to give this amazing provision to every new church applicant, and I would argue every current cup holder can demand the same. Why? Because you are privileging Dar al-Faro above other religions. One of your own council members said, I feel like we're punishing applicants that came after Dal al-Faro because you required them to do things that Dar al-Faro is not required to do. The city council granted a conditional permit to Dal al-Faro, enabling the mosque to operate in a residential neighborhood, then failed to enforce either the CUP or the joint use agreement, allowing the mosque to use Smith Park. As a result, the neighbors of Smith Park have been reduced to second-class status, unable to use and enjoy public park adjacent to their neighborhood. Mosque actions violating the CUP and JUA were not stopped because the city attorney insisted that the federal religious land use and Incarcerated Persons Act, commonly called RLUIPA, did not allow the city to enforce the CUP JUA, effectively making the neighborhood around Dar al-Faro a zoning-free area. The city attorney also told the council members that the enforcement of the CUP could result in lawsuits against council members in their private capacities. Both legal ideas are flatly false, said Frost. And this article goes on for quite a ways, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's there for you if you'd like to read it. Mainly, I brought this to your attention because this can happen in any of our communities. They're allowing one religious group to take over public areas at the expense of the public. It's unlawful, and we need to be aware of this and be watching for this in our own areas and not allow this kind of thing to happen, because it sets a precedence. If one's allowed to do it one place, then they're all allowed to do it everywhere, and before you know it, we're not going to have any public areas to go to anymore. And with that kind of a radical group comes share a law. So, you know, you need to be aware of this kind of stuff. You're not going to see that in the mainstream. And let's see, I've got one more here I wanted to read, and this one is off the Sovereign Man, and it says, new legislation poses to bail in Social Security. It was only a few weeks ago that I told you about the government's annual report on Social Security. It was a veritable death sentence for the program. The Board of Trustees for Social Security, which includes the U.S. Treasury Secretary, wrote that major parts of the program have already run out of money, and the rest of Social Security will run out of money in the next decade. Amazing. Even Social Security knows that they're bankrupt and unable to keep their promises to taxpayers. This is going to cause an unbelievable crisis in the United States. Think about it. Half of Americans have zero retirement savings and will be fully dependent on Social Security once they retire. But by the time their retirement comes, the program will have likely already run out of money. Well, the government has figured out a solution, and it's genius. 2 weeks ago, a new bill was introduced on the floor of Congress that, just like all the other really dangerous legislation, i.e. the U.S. Patriot Act, this bill has a catchy acronym. It's called Save Up Accounts Act, which stands for Secure, Accessible, Valuable, Efficient, Universal Pension Accounts Act. In short, Save Up mandates certain employers and businesses in the United States, including many small businesses, to start contributing a fixed amount of money per employee into a brand new national retirement fund. Based on the contribution requirements and the average wage in the United States, about $50,000 annually, the bill is slapping a 2% wage tax on employers. Funny thing, employers are already paying 6.2% to Social Security. So an additional 2% tax effectively constitutes a 32% proportional increase. This idea is such a classic example of government thinking. Social Security is failing and will be unable to keep its promises to taxpayers in the next decade. So there's a pretty convincing track record suggesting the government-managed retirement funds are a very bad idea. And yet, the best solution these people can come up with is to raise your taxes, steal more money, and establish brand new government-run retirement fund. Their logic is unbelievable. If at first you don't succeed, keep trying the same loser tactics. Sadly, Save Up is not isolated. A similar bill was introduced in the U.S. Senate a few months ago. The Senate version aims to create an American savings account, i.e. another national retirement fund to be managed by the government. Then, of course, there's President Obama's MIRA program, where workers contribute a portion of their paycheck to a retirement account managed by the federal government, and MIRA has already been launched. The Save Up bill, by the way, could also make it mandatory for a business to sign up all of its employees for a government MIRA account. The trend here is pretty clear. Social Security is rapidly running out of cash, and they're solving the problem by having American citizens and businesses essentially bail in the program with higher taxes and more contributions to government retirement funds. And this is just what's happening right now, at a time when very few people are paying attention to the problem. Just imagine how much more they're going to steal once the looming Social Security bankruptcy becomes front page news in a few years. Right now, time is on your side. They're not going to unveil any hideous new program tomorrow morning, but there are two key lessons to take away here. It's imperative to consider these long-term bail-in implications and structure yourself accordingly. The more assets you keep within a bankrupt government's jurisdiction, the more likely you are to become a victim to future taxation and confiscation. Number two, you absolutely cannot depend on the government for your retirement. These programs are going broke. That is not a sensational statement. It's a direct representation of the facts as they have been laid out by the Treasury Secretary of the United States. Again, time is on your side. If you invest it wisely, you can develop the skills to supplement your income in retirement. For example, how to generate extra income online and how to manage your finances to generate higher returns while taking less risk. Education is the greatest tool we have to solve this retirement problem as long as you start early. It says, our goal is simple, to help you achieve personal liberty and financial prosperity no matter what happens. And if you pull up this article, there is a download that they will give you for their program that they're offering here on this website. So there you have it. That it's not good news, but I don't know that it's unexpected news. This should have been stopped back when Johnson took over Social Security, because it was never meant for the government to have their hands in it in the first place. But nonetheless, they stuck their fingers in it and they've blown the money, and the elderly who depend on this the most are going to be the ones that are going to suffer for this. And for those of you out there in the workforce that expect to not be in the workforce one day for whatever reason, whether it's a health-related problem or whether you try to retire, don't think Social Security is going to be your answer. You better be finding a way to get you some money up for retirement on your own, because counting on the government to do it for you is not going to be to your best interest. So there you have the news for today. And if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, share the video, subscribe. And here's a little side note for those of you that maybe you're not aware of this. When you subscribe to a channel, there's a little wheel that comes up there next to the subscribe button. And if you poke that, a little box comes up, and you can check the box, and it'll send you emails when the channel goes live, or when they put up a new video. So if you want to get alerts on when your favorite channels have stuff come up, you can check that little box, and it'll pop in your email for you. Down in the description box is the email address if you want to send us any email. You can make comments on the videos. I always check those and try to respond. I've got a link to my other channel. I put up another story time for those of you that like my story times. I put one of those up last night, and I feel another one coming on, so there may be another one go up later today. So with that, I think I'll turn y'all loose for today. I appreciate y'all being there, everybody in the chat room, and all my lurkers, all you people that watch on Memorex. Glad to have you, and spread the word. Keep a good outlook. Keep your sense of humor. Stick your feet in the grass, ground yourself a little bit. Breathe a breath of fresh air, and get yourself a chuckle wherever you can. See you tomorrow at noon. Bye.